Let's begin in the Middle East.
Yeah, let's start there. Mediators there have reportedly sent the U.S. and Iran a temporary ceasefire proposal that would reopen the Strait of Hormuz. However, the White House says the president has not signed off on that, adding it is one of many ideas. But the clock now ticking for Tehran to open up that waterway. In an explicit social media post over the weekend, President Trump wrote, "Tomorrow will be, quote, power plant day and bridge day if it's not opened." CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes joins us now with more on this. So, Nancy, what are we hearing about this potential ceasefire proposal? I mean, could we see a deal actually reached by tomorrow?
So this is something that is being floated, Chanel, by Pakistani officials, by other regional mediators, and they're basically sort of serving it up to the Americans and the Iranians and waiting for a response. Basically, what they're proposing is that there would be an immediate ceasefire and that then there would be 15 to 20 days of negotiations, during which time the Strait of Hormuz would be opened. You mentioned the White House response to this. All they've said so far is that this is one of many ideas and that the president has not signed off on it. We haven't seen a positive response from Iran either, and we know that they all along have been arguing that they want a complete and total end to the war, not just a ceasefire. So that proposal is out there, unclear if it's going to go anywhere. In the meantime, the president has been saying all throughout the weekend that talks with Iran, direct talks, are going well. He says that there could even be a deal by today. But at the same time, he is threatening to, basically bomb Iran to smithereens. He said that tomorrow will be power plant day and bridge day. In other words, claiming that if the strait isn't reopened, that he is going to attack civilian power plants and bridges, something that international law experts have said would be a war crime.
So what's the president's reaction to that analysis of those threats, Nancy? I mean, we saw that profane social media post. I'm just sort of, it almost feels, and it's not the first time we've heard that kind of rhetoric from the administration. Pete Hegseth infamously said that the United States is willing to punch down. In other words, you can take for that what you will, but essentially means that if an enemy is down on its knees, we're going to keep battering them. That is, again, in line with what the president is suggesting here.
Yeah, I mean, the U.S. has been very critical in the past when the Russians, for example, have attacked Ukrainian civilian infrastructure, such as power plants and bridges. And certainly the president has been making these threats, not just, over the weekend, but over the past couple of weeks, saying that he's going to go after power plants. And international law experts have been sounding the alarm, but that has not dissuaded him. And now he says that he's got this deadline of tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern time. But we have seen him set deadlines before in this conflict, in this very conflict, and he has kind of then backed away from those ultimatums, saying that he thinks that talks are going well. We're in an interesting situation now where he's both saying he thinks talks are going well, which is an optimism, by the way, that doesn't seem to be shared by other parties, and he's also issuing these ultimatums. So we'll have a chance to hear from him directly about all of this. He's holding a press conference in a few hours here at the White House. So we'll be able to put those questions to him. How does he feel about this proposal being put forth by the Pakistanis, and where do these talks between the U.S. and the Iranians really stand?
Nancy Cordes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Senior foreign correspondent Elizabeth Palmer is joining us now live from Tel Aviv. So, Liz, there are these talks, as referenced by Nancy, that have been brokered by Pakistan about this ceasefire. What is Iran saying about them, and what are the Israelis saying about it?
Well, Iran's comments don't add up to anything concrete for sure. They have, though, confirmed, and I quote, formulated demands and positions and communicated them through intermediaries. A very complicated way of saying they've engaged. They're talking, which is good news, and you see that reflected in the price of oil today, a small drop. But the Iranians are predictably very hostile to President Trump's threat to bomb bridges and power stations. They're saying ultimatums and threats to commit what they call war crimes are not compatible with negotiation. What's really going on is anybody's guess. I think only the insiders really know.
So, Elizabeth, based on the fact that there is so much uncertainty about how those talks, if any, are actually going, is there any indication at this point that the Strait will be reopened by tomorrow at 8 p.m.? What President Trump has said is his deadline?
Well, the oil market is one indicator, and it's a little optimistic, but not very. Realistically speaking, for Iran, keeping the straits closed is their high card, and they're going to play it for maximum leverage. In fact, a senior Iranian official told Reuters news agency today that they're not going to reopen this strait as part of a temporary ceasefire, for example. But I think you have to take that with a grain of salt. There will be enormous pressure to come to some sort of arrangement from all sides, not only the U.S., but the Arabs and the Europeans, who are all desperate for the free flow of energy to resume.
All right, Liz, as always, we'll be watching. And Liz, before you go, I referenced the Israelis. I mean, have they commented at all? In other words, we keep talking about a deal, but it doesn't strike me that this deal would include potentially the Israelis. In other words, the Israelis want to continue doing until they achieve their objectives, which may not necessarily be in line with ours.
Well, precisely, and nobody really knows how Israel will react, but so far Israel has followed the U.S. lead. The only thing that's solid is a press conference some time ago with a spokesman for the IDF that said that if the U.S. Did agree to a ceasefire, Israel would fall into line. But as I say, that's some time ago. And I think we're just going to have to wait and see. The fact that Israel has other objectives very much complicates the talks.
For sure. All right, Liz Palmer reporting from Tel Aviv for us. Liz, thank you as always.